Hello, everybody. Welcome to Encounter Roleplay. Hello to those watching live on Twitch. And if watching on YouTube, be sure you join us live for this show every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/Encounter Roleplay. Let's start and introduce all of our players, cast, and crew tonight. This is episode 1 of Unrestful Hearts in the Garden of Glory. My name is Grant Ellis. I'm an independent content creator for tabletop role-playing games. You can follow me on Twitter at WisePuppetGrant. And I'm on a lot of different shows here on Twitch, but Encounter Roleplay is actually my home channel. This is the channel where I started streaming actual play series a little over a year ago, where we ran Brave New Worlds, which is a homebrew D&D setting that I ran here. Tonight we're going to play a game system that I designed myself, and we have a wonderful cast with us tonight. Well, let's go ahead and go around and introduce each other, and let's start with the Antelier of House Estelle herself, Rosary Marcy Vallon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcy. My pronouns are she, they, and so are my characters. Rosary is the queen. We'll say that. Antelier of the House Estelle is, or Antelier would be a fine title to use, not her real name. That's very informal, especially around the court. Or you can just simply call her Star of the Skies.
I had nightmares about that. I was like, they're going to make me call her Star of the Skies.
Yes. They will.
Joining us as well is Poisel. Poisel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. It's my first time here on Encounter Roleplay. So I'm a Poisel on Twitter, and pronouns are they, them. And same with my character, Chev Antimony the Dragon. Looking forward to bringing them to life and sharing them with everyone.
Also joining us tonight is M. E. Truffery on Twitter. How you doing, M?
Hi, I'm doing pretty well. Also, first time on Encounter Roleplay. Very excited. I usually spend most of my time just on the Twitter sphere talking about RPG stuff and drawing things occasionally. Pronouns are she, her, as are the pronouns of the character I'll be playing, Chev Orphelia DeLion, who is a very fancy lady with a very big sword, and we shall see how that plays out.
So we have a donation, one of our first donations of the night, coming from Megan is a Nerd. Hi, Megan. They work a little differently in this game, and I'm going to explain to you. This game doesn't really have a concept of critical hits or things of that nature. However, that donation would do as follows. Let me scroll down to the bottom of my rules where I wrote sort of these unlocks. What you'll do is when our players are rolling to perform a task, they'll get a roll with 2 dice. And it will most likely be an overwhelming success. They could add the totals together. Also joining us tonight is a good friend of mine. We've played many games together, Pro Restarter. Hi, Pro.
Hey, how's it going? I'm super happy to be here. I am Pro Restarter, he, him pronouns, and my character I'm going to be playing today is Sir Daniel du Egal, the Rose Knight, and their pronouns are they, them. Super happy to be extra as hell today.
Also joining us is a friend of mine, Burst of Hope from the Cypher System community and a excellent game master in their own right. How you doing, Jess?
Hey, I'm good. It's awesome to be here. First time as well on Encounter Roleplay, so we're all super excited to do your thing. Tonight I will be playing Sir Catelyn de Wolf.
And it's wonderful to have you. What can you tell us about Catelyn the Wolf? Just a little bit on the surface.
Oh yes, Catelyn takes every word she says very seriously, and she makes no time for jokes, all time for smooches.
Before we begin today's show, I'll remind you guys that we're sponsored by Fantasy Grounds, our virtual tabletop of choice. All the beautiful maps and roles you see tonight are using Fantasy Grounds, which you can try for free at fantasygrounds.com. You can also get all your miniatures from Wayland Games. Go to waylandgames.co.uk and get yourself a huge range of D&D, Warhammer, and 40k minis for 20% off. Finally, Tabletop Loot provide fantastic dice, which we give away when we hit stream goals. Go to tabletoploot.com to see the kinds of dice sets you could win each session. Finally, I'll remind you how to interact with today's game. When we hit 20 retweets, we'll give away a set of Tabletop Loot dice. When we hit 20, we'll give away our first set on the first 20. The giveaways will be handled by our engineer, Drake, tonight. Hi, Drake. You're out there somewhere in the cosmos. And of course, you can donate to affect the game by giving players Nat 1s, Nat 20s, Wild Magic Surges. And this month's special is a Table of Pets. For this game specifically, there's some modifications. We do positive and negative modifiers to challenges, additional dice to be rolled for the challenge, tarot readings, legendary qualities, as well as forcing scenes to occur between players, as this is both a narrative game and an adventure game. So there might be a spicy scene you want to see occur between the Rose Knight and the... it's pronounced Antelier? Marcy, help me out. Antelier?
Antelier.
Antelier. You did this to me before. Off with his head. So let's talk a little bit about the way this game is structured. So our players represent brave knights of a noble house and a noble order. Houses such as House Lion, House Eagle, House Dragon, and House Wolf. Or in Marcy's special case, House Estelle. They're built from attractive qualities, such as being accomplished at arms, being resourceful, or being well-educated. Their goal is to serve the crown, balance their passion, and bring glory to their names and house. Dramatic events shake up the kingdom to its very core and explode into courtly intrigues involving the knights and noble houses, creating messy entanglements. That's the first half of the game, which we're going to get into. So the game begins with a dramatic event. You cannot see it, but I am using a tarot card to determine the first dramatic event that will happen and shake up the kingdom. So I have played a card. It is the flipped Five of Wands. Let me show that to you players behind the scenes. And the flipped Five of Wands, I'm going to divine...
Wand or Juans or ones?
W-A-N-D-S.
Okay, got it.
All right. So, this card represents avoiding conflict, diversity, and meeting in the middle. There has been a feud between House Dragon and House Lion that has been brewing and boiling over in the Land Royal. There has been called a, let's call it a negotiation. Representatives of all major houses have noticed that this tension is causing a lot of despair in the land. House Dragon represents the wealth, the riches, the money. Essentially, they fuel the economy. House Lion represents the royal house, the royal line. The line of kings, queens, emperors, empresses, sovereigns of all kinds. And so, a meeting has been called of all houses. They must get House Lion and House Dragon to come to terms. And so a courtly intrigue shall begin. I'd like to refer to this intrigue as there's a mini game that we're going to play, and in this situation, I would like to propose that this meeting is a conversation over food. There is a great dinner that is being held, and all knights that are playing in our game are invited to attend. So knights following along in their rule book. And next week we'll have a copy of the book for the audience to follow along in. Each of us will receive a narrative point for our scene based on our goal. So decide for yourself whether you want to focus on advancing yourself, advancing a relationship between yourself and another knight, or advancing politically. So self-improvement, political advancement, or a relationship. And it might not necessarily be a relationship with another knight. It could be an NPC from the fiction that we introduce. So let's go around for the players and decide what we'd like to make our goal for this scene, what we'd like to get out of it. Self, relationship, or political gain. So let's start with Pro. We'll go from Pro to M. In fact, let's start becoming our character. So Sarah Danielle, then we'll go to Chev Orphelia, Chev Antimony, Antillier of the House Estelle, Sir Cataline, and then establish your goal. And for this first game, I'm going to join in as well, and I will be an NPC of a random house, which I will roll now. So, Pro, take us away, Chev Danielle.
Yeah, so Danielle, I will go into what they look like. They have long pink hair that flows down to their lower back and over the shoulders. They have bright lavender eyes and rose-colored lips. They are tanned, about my complexion, and wear a strong bout of armor with a rose sigil on the breast, and a red long cape, and a strong sword at the side. And I think my goal is going to be connection.
Ooh. Give yourself another passion point to your narrative score. So Sarah Danielle has the maximum passion score that anyone can start with. And now you've pushed it from 6 to 7. And Chev Orphelia of House Lion.
Okay, so similarly describing Chev Orphelia, she is a tall woman with very pale hair that she always keeps up in a very long ponytail, and usually wears. I don't think for this particular conversation over food she'd be wearing her armor necessarily, but always has her sword very close by. And for this particular situation, so you mentioned this was a conflict between House Lion and House Dragon, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be then I think in this situation it would probably be appropriate to advance the relationship, probably of the rivalry between Orphelia and possibly Chev Antimony.
All right, so go ahead and go ahead and increase your passion score by 1 point.
Okay.
And Chev Antimony.
So, Chev Antimony is a tall, kind of severe in their looks kind of person. Very square kind of face, kind of angular, chiseled, shorter, darker hair, maybe mid-length, a little bit below the ears, usually swept back. They wear no armor. They wear a simple, very nice silk tunic of kind of a deeper, like purple and reds and burgundies, with a little bit of gold at the hems, and the line's a little bit of flourish on it, but it is kind of a tight-fitting, like blouse tunic kind of feel with tight silk pants as well. They carry no weapon. Instead, they usually have a notebook or some sort of book at hand for various things. For their goal during this meeting, this food is to try to work through this disagreement between House Dragon and House Lion to the hopefully to the political gain of both, to try to come to some sort of amends between the two.
Go ahead and advance your crown score by 1. And her Star of the Skies.
So, thank you. Antelier, her star of the skies is, she has short and feathery, light green near white hair, piercing blue eyes, strong jaw, broad shoulders, otherwise slim and pale features. And she wears for this dinner a simple silk light pink dress with a more exotic fur mantle. And I think her goal for this is to make sure she and Chev Ophelia are on the same page regarding the disagreement and negotiations for this. So I think her goal, if I had to name something, would be stability.
Okay, go ahead and advance. So I'll give you a choice. You want to advance passion or crown? Your choice.
I will advance crown for this.
Okay. And Sir Cataline?
Yes, Sir Cataline. He's obviously House Wolf is House of the Army, so Sir Cataline is always business until it comes to the times of social events. You find her tall and slender, all black. The trim is bold, bright silver, stripes lining just the collar and the side of the pantsuit. And when not dealt on the battlefield, it is of course time to interact and have relations with the other houses.
So I'm going to give you a choice. I'll let you advance glory or passion.
We will go with passion this time.
Mm-hmm. And so a little bit about how these narrative scores work. Obviously, they have impact in how the games get spent. During the games, players can spend their narrative points to force tarot readings, to muck up scenes, and introduce new directions in story. Likewise, they represent how the world and the other knights perceive each other. Very high crown score, then the knights recognize that as someone who has political advantages. A very high passion score, it may be that men and women and all individuals, all people, might find them beautiful or attractive. Likewise, a high glory score, you might be the subject of the songs in the taverns or the court, or the story, or there might be news releases introduced about your character. But I'm going to take part in this game at least this week, and I am going to be Uzran Joza, the wolf. And this was randomly chosen, so as I type like a million times in our private chat. So Suzran is simply a gender-neutral title for an adult, but Josa holds the rank of captain. And Josa has she/her pronouns. And she is a very large woman. She stands about 5'11", but if you were to look at her, you'd guess she was about 6'2". She's an imposing 280 pounds. If you were to push her solid, she is dressed in elaborate furs, a bearskin coat, gloves made out of foxes, and she carries everywhere she goes a large ancestral blade. And she is going to participate in tonight's game. So let's talk a little bit about how this game works, a conversation over food. So each of us will be involved in this conversation over dinner. We all describe how we look, particularly at this dinner. We've all described our characters, but it might be interesting to talk about our mood as we approach this and we actually sit down for dinner. Then each of us takes turns proceeding in the conversation. Whoever has the lowest crown score will actually go first in this game. So what's everyone's crown score? Yes.
Can I ask a question really quick? Who is hosting
Yes.
the dinner?
Okay, so the dinner is actually hosted by House Dragon.
Okay. All right.
They are the host house.
That
and it's
works for me. Good to know.
Yeah, and important to note too to the audience, we all have narrative control and authority over these scenes. So we might introduce things into the fiction that never existed before. Since this is sort of a GM-less segment, we all essentially just play the games to find out what happens, introduce new NPCs, new twists and turns in the story. And whatever we introduce into the fiction most likely will stick and we can make note of. So what begins is after sort of describing each other in our mood and talking about how this looks. So let's all take turns describing the setting of where this dinner takes place. And since this is taking place at a House Dragon estate, I'm curious, Chev and Timony, how would the table arrangements look like? What materials would they be made out of? What sort of settings or what would they serve drinks out of at this occasion?
The hall here in the capital for House Dragon, the banquet hall is long. It's a very long hall with a very long marble-topped table for the dinner, supported by great legs of heavy oak, and all the plates and all the flatware or the dishes are of a very nice porcelain, a specialty of House Dragons, with nice silverware, very clean, very sharp lines, with tall goblets with silver bases that have dragon claws coming up to hold the crystal.
And her Star of the Skies, how is the room lit? What sources of light are they? Is it very brightly lit? What time of day is the meal occurring?
This will be a late afternoon supper, and it's lit in this particular room by sunlight coming in through this sort of cascading stained glass window that overlooks the western sky.
Okay.
Right.
And Ophelia, what are some of the types of people that have gathered to this particular meal? Is there many people gathered? Is there very few?
I think so. This is probably one of those social occasions where there's not a lot of people here, but everyone here has like their sort of clique of 5 or 6 people that they came here with. I don't think this is the sort of thing where a whole lot of people came alone with a particular agenda. This is very much a meeting of groups of people. This is looking around this room, it is very clear this is a meeting of factions that is here to decide a problem, but every faction is very clearly visible. There's not a whole lot of mingling going on at this point yet. But in terms of number of people, probably 30-ish, maybe.
And Sir Danielle, describe the type of food being served currently.
The food is exquisitely over the top. There are water fountains of just pure liquor. There is a whole boar on the table, and there is just a myriad of colors of fruits and vegetables across the table, as well as meats roasting over several pits. Just a slew of a full banquet.
And we'll begin. Is there anything else Sarah Cataline would like to add to the setting or scene that hasn't been added yet?
There absolutely is, I imagine, a small, like, quartet or orchestra in the corner playing
Ooh.
House Dragon's best compositions.
Are they members of House Dragon or a House Dragon cover band?
We'll go with members of House Dragon.
All right. So we can keep track of this quartet. So I would actually have the lowest crown points, being a non-player character. So on my turn, and we simply can go around, and we'll go around essentially counterclockwise, if you can see the overlay. So Pro will go next. So on our turn, we can ask a topical question, and they're sample topical questions. We can engage in verbatim, impromptu conversation with one another. We can pass and simply mention something about the food, or we can leave the conversation and withdraw. And essentially, when any player declares that this conversation is over and someone else affirms it, then the scene is done. And then we all may trade a narrative point if we'd like. Give up a passion point for a crown point, give up a glory point for a passion point, etc. And then the game master will assign tags. Tags are legendary qualities that can impact the adventure part of the game. These qualities would be something such as a masked liaison. You might have a secret helper that shows up in scenes. It might be the people's hero, and you can apply that later to assist townsfolk, etc., when friction and despair break out in the land. So Suzerain Josa sort of begins the conversation, and she's kind of bossing her way through the banquet hall, and she makes her way right towards the Rose Knight. They are very beautiful, and Suzerain Josa is intrigued by smaller people, and she's a very large, sort of imposing force, and she comes up to the Rose Knight, and sort of begins in conversation. So we'll begin in a little bit of back and forth conversation, and then I'll go into a topical question. Then we'll pass to your turn. Sarah Danielle Dueagle, legend in their own time. Kind of hides a giggle, covers her mouth. She didn't mean.
Werewolf Josa, it is a pleasure to meet you.
The honor is all mine. Your exploits are quite legendary, if I do say, and such a broad range of exploits. I hope I can get you to commit to visit our estates in the Marmors sometime. We'd love to entertain you and your squires.
Oh, well, if the Lord abides it, then I will be able to visit all the places that I am being asked to. But one is busy bringing just light to those who surely need it. Perhaps if today's talks go well, I'll see fit to ask my Lord to bump up on the list.
Her eyes kind of relax and go soft, and she goes, "Tell me about your faith." And with that, I'm going to pass it over to your turn to be there. Michael Bay whip pan over to the next, and you're just like, "Yes, hold that." So the floor is now yours, and after you, it'll be M, and then Poisel,
So-
Marcy, then Jeff.
Am I continuing the conversation or am I bringing someone else into the conversation? Or am I just
You can bring
my-
however you see it, and you can describe how you transition. You can even
Mhm.
say what the outcome of that conversation was. So you wash your hands in a fountain. Yeah.
I think it ends ends promising, but without me actually promising anything more of just the fluff of what could be. And then I think I turn to Catalin, and I just say, "It is truly a wonderful feast that is being held today, Sir Catalin. Surely such a delightful feast could only have the most pleasant of conversations to abide it. Wouldn't you agree?
That, I suppose, would be the correct thing to assume, Sir Daniel.
Tell me, Sir Catalin, and I'm going to use one of the plot points here. I hope that, well, I hope to convince you that I, in this situation, can be a good arbiter in both sides. It is not just one house versus the other, but all-encompassing in this land that the church oversees. And I hope that we can bring this to a delightful end amongst rosy liquor.
That sounds divine. One cannot have a decent sort of peace and success without the church or the forces. If we are all against one another, what is left?
Anarchy. Anarchy and those who arrive in being heathens. And I think I'll pass it to you.
Ooh.
Okay. Question. How do we establish plot points like what this conflict is about between the two houses? Is that something we decide as a group?
Oh, well, it's sort of like this. When it's your turn, you have narrative authority. Now, your perspective may not be the full story. For example, sometimes we've had assassinations between families. It was blamed on House Dragon, but it was actually House Wolf, so on and so forth. So you're allowed to speak truth as you understand it. And then there's that sort of guide I have for us. Be very careful what we introduce into the narrative, because we have to live with it. We can always find ways to storytell our ways around it, like any good soap opera. But you have authority to introduce it.
But can I choose to make that collaborative if I want to? Because this would be kind of a fun
100%.
thing to figure out between me and Timony here. Maybe we
100%.
figure out this out. Okay, so why are we fighting right now?
Ooh.
So you're all about.
You're the royalty, the monarchy, and
Correct.
we are the
Nobles and money,
aristocracy, as it were. Yeah, the nobles and money. Perhaps, like all nobles, it all boils down to money and taxes, and perhaps it came down to some sort of tax that is either that House Dragon disagrees with, or that is of some sort of impact between the two of our houses.
Sure. Okay. So how about this? Since we're dealing with like some period of strife in the general public, maybe House Lion decided to raise effectively. I guess this world is going to have some version of an income tax to help with like relief efforts outside of the capital or something. Maybe we're trying to, I don't know, do something in the countryside to, I don't know, make a dam or something. Like something to that effect. But effectively, we've introduced some form of income tax that is making House Dragon really unhappy right now, because the nobles are having to give away more money. So maybe that's why.
I have a question, a clarifying question. Are the tax collectors representatives of House Lion? So House Lion essentially sends around tax collectors?
Oh, yes. Absolutely, yes. Unless another member of a house wants to offer a particular...
I feel like House Lion would be prone to employing House Wolf to do their dirty work in terms
Oh!
of tax collecting.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I
The
like that
best
a lot,
part
actually.
is the sovereign has assigned House Lion to do it, and they've raised taxes to employ House Wolf. They're like, well, look, we still need to take our cut. So, yeah.
We're just the House of Delegation, basically.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just
that
do
makes
it.
sense.
You guys are better at the whole like enforcing things and making sure people actually pay up. So, okay, so I think that's our conflict then.
Okay.
Okay, so then as far as the actual conversation part of this, Chef Ophelia, who is, by the way, relatively young for a knight, she's not particularly experienced, and so at this sort of event, she's doing that sort of thing where you look around, making that very clear. I totally have got this. I absolutely know what I'm doing. I definitely belong here. And so, gosh, I think I just stride as confidently as I can over to Chev Antimony over here. And giving a very elaborate, very fancy curtsy. Chev Antimony, a pleasure to meet you.
And
This is a lovely
pleasure.
party you've got set here.
thank you. You warm my heart with your greetings and your assessment of my family's estates. This is good to see you here, and it's good to have House Lion here in the House of Dragons, so that we may speak and enjoy each other's company.
Yes, precisely that. It is an unusual occurrence. I can't say I've ever been here before. It's so different.
Well, hopefully you can visit more frequently.
mhm. I must say, I've noticed you don't carry a sword. I hope I'm not being rude, but is there any particular reason? It seems unusual.
Oh no, well, it was my education was broad and diverse in the Intramuros, and I find that words have more weight sometimes than steel, and knowledge even more than that, and I find myself already overburdened on both. That I think that perhaps one day I will pick up a sword, but for now I have other passions.
Right. Well, if knowledge is your business, then perhaps we should have a chat for how you can use that great brain of yours to solve the issue for why we're here. And I think if
Yes.
we don't necessarily need to RP this section out, but I'm basically going to be bumping them for, like, if taxes are not the solution to this, then they need to tell me what is. And I'm being more aggressive than I probably should be for someone of my station.
Does anyone do? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You go first.
No, I was going to ask. Beyond that, do any of the other knights, just by show of hands, who notices this? Like Suzerain and Josa noticed it. It's like, it's a pushy little lion, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually did want to ask about that. So looking at the rules for the conversation over food, so does this count as a topical question of making an ignorant social or diplomatic blunder? Because this is not being tactful at all.
It totally can, and you can also improvise questions.
Okay.
Those are merely guidelines, but yes.
Okay, good. That was what I was going for. Like, this is not smooth. This is not good.
Yeah, Suzerain and Josa's finding this kind of entertaining. It's like, she's got some fight in her. Maybe House Lion can still continue to rule. I don't know. She's been drinking quite a bit. Antimony, it's you. Please continue.
Yes. Yeah. So if that were the case, if this were your social blunder here, I would let you recover gracefully. I would not hold that against you in this instance. What I would counter for this taxation is that House Dragon is, of course, always willing to open our coffers up to the betterment of the realm, and we understand the need for our wealth in this case. But we would like some concessions from the crown if taxes were to be higher on us to expand some of our own mercantile business outside of the capital into the newly founded cities in Merbank, to have the territories of Merbank be more mercantile for our own growth.
At this point, the wheels are pretty clearly turning. And I think...
And while Antimony is giving this response, they are almost they occasionally flip through the little notebook that they have with them, as if they are trying to remember some of these talking points, as if they are not exactly their talking points.
Okay, I see. Well, so Chevervilia is actually taken aback that you had a response, let alone one that actually made sense. And so she actually kind of oh, well, I suppose we might be able to consider something to that effect. And then, assuming I was here with some sort of entourage, I think at this point I call them over as basically help, more experienced diplomat people. That didn't go the way I thought it was going to.
And
I actually
you can
had
describe.
responses ready.
Do you pull someone in from House Lion or one of the other houses, or the musicians who shrug? Go ahead and describe to me. Or are you left completely alone?
I think I definitely have if I have a mentor, maybe there's a mentor here who's supposed to keep an eye on me here. So maybe they're around from House Lion. Maybe I'm just imagining a really tall, severe, very tired woman probably.
And I imagine she's letting you train as lions train, and it's not just Antimony who is speaking to you. Lions train, they get surrounded by a circle of attackers, so the dragons have they're sort of watching this discussion go on. They're kind of, old House Slytherins gathering around. It's just they're just kind of coming in and possibly going to join in the debate. However, your mentor is there. Hand's not on hilt of blade. Yes, go ahead.
I know that you said that we can expend a plot point to spice up the scene, right? And I think with this new NPC, I think it might be good to do that. So I want to expand my passion point I got. And what can I? What are they for? Is it just
going to play It's going to play a tarot. So here's the card. So it played the Five of Swords. And we'll say it's right side up. We'll say which direction it goes in. So Five of Swords. So Swords is tied to a house. Is that House Wolf? Let me double check. I believe it is.
Swords is House Eagle.
House Eagle. All right. Cool. So this mentor, and House Eagle and House Lion are often on friendly terms. House Eagle determines who the next in the royal line will be, and there is a tie there. So we're going to tie them to House Eagle, or someone from House Eagle has take a note of this. And the Five of Swords means defeat, infamy, disgrace, betrayal.
Great. Cool.
And they turn their back on this, and it's almost as if this is if this was a press conference. The press are having a field day with your answers, and they're kind of making note, and they're kind of almost treating you as a thing of jest, if that's okay. Just sort of like,
I mean, that's fair.
If you don't mind, we can pass the sort of move the focus over to Antimony, and then Antimony can mingle throughout the conversation.
So, as this conversation starts to wind down, to pull the attention of House Lion off of you, Chevophilia, Antimony is going to search the crowd and try to make eye contact with the Antillier of House Estelle to kind of gracefully invite them into the conversation about this issue of taxes and ideas, and invite them to join in to make this not such a spectacle of Orphelia and Antimony, but a meeting of multiple houses. And so, her Star of the Skies, it is a pleasure to see you.
Antillier's eyes meet your own.
Oh yes, it is a pleasure to see you in the this House of Dragons. We were just having a conversation about the recent taxation within the realm, and what mood and what means we can make to make sure that the kingdom benefits from this all.
Are they not high enough?
The taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are specific ones that the crown would like to increase for the benefit of those to the north, for the some of the humanitarian issues up there, and we, House Dragon, understand our that the people do matter, and that there is a temporary increase in tax revenue is not always an evil. But what are your thoughts, Antillier?
My dear Chev Antimony, is it?
Yes.
I fear to say that I have not been so. Critical of them. They are good things. Then they feed the trust. There's humanitarian issues in the north, but there are sometimes them in the south as well. Do you remember the storm 5 years ago?
I do. I remember hearing of it during my time in the Intramuros. I was not living in the south at the time.
Well, it benefited them, so we will continue to do it. But if you have specific issues with some of these taxes, I'd be happy to talk about them, maybe, but perhaps it is the more of the job of your negotiation with the Eagles for this matter.
I do not find that the church need be overly involved in the disbursement of the government and how it chooses to use its revenue. The church has its own holdings and its own great wealth, and they influence each other, but House Lion can decide how the coffers of the kingdom are spent.
And so they do.
Yes. Let me look. So I was trying to find some common ground with you on this topic of this disagreement between House Lion and House Dragon, so that perhaps House Estelle could weigh in as an arbiter towards the peace between them. I don't know if I convince you of that, but
I think depending on certain taxes, Antelier would be able to help you, but it's going to depend on the specifics for that.
I think the
overall, she's a fan of
it
taxes.
It hasn't been determined yet whether specifically these taxes are. I think that these taxes were raised on let's say banking profits, on the profits coming from the banking, the loaning, the kind of adjudication of private wealth and the control of such, and so the recent profits that House Dragon has made on that, the court and the crown has tried to raise the taxes just a little, to use that towards the issues of flooding and the lack of farm issues that have been happening in the north because of the inclement weather that is undue for this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, she's very much okay with that, but I think it's still going to need to I'm not certain.
It's okay.
I think is the best way to put it.
It's good to be cagey.
Yeah. It's between the houses, so to speak.
I guess that passes to you then.
Yes.
Okay. I will go to Chef Ophelia at some point over the meal, and sit with her. You look like you're fitting in rather well.
Do you think so?
Yes. For your first time, it's very good.
Sorry, have we met before? This is an out of character question. Have we met before?
Probably not, but the lions and the crown are always kind of meshed up, so I'm going to be a little bit more informal with you than I would anyone else.
Sure. Okay.
Meshed
up. Meshed up. Yes. Sorry. It does seem there's some sort of script here I do appear to be missing. Oh, I apologize, I'm being horribly rude. Antilia, my Chef Ophelia de Lion. I don't know that we've met formally yet.
I've not known your name, but I've seen you around.
Yes.
So, what exactly, if I may ask, what did they imply would be your responsibility here today?
Well, they told me I was to arrive and present for House Lion, and that we were here to resolve the disagreement. So, I assumed that I was here to resolve the disagreement. It would simply seem that there's a bit more to that than I had been led to believe. That's all.
Yes, I agree. Keep me updated if you might. I'm curious to see what your decision might be. I will say that, and I look a passing glance over at Chev and Timony. I will say that a friend over there brings up some good points about the disparities in taxable income. Perhaps we can find an agreement to make everyone happy.
Right, I suppose. Just whatever's best for the country.
And let's see here. And what can I do here? I'm trying to reassure.
You simply can converse naturally and do that. So you can simply have an impromptu conversation. You don't have to ask a question. You essentially have narrative control. So whatever you feel most comfortable. And you can always say something about the food and pass it. Oh, these hors d'oeuvres.
Yes. Yeah, I'll go. I'm still a little confused about how the actual crown and passion and glory points work. I'm wondering if I can give her a point out of one of my pools to be able to use.
That happens at the end of the game.
Got it. Thank you.
So after this game, as part of it, you can say, I pass on one of these points over to Chev or Ophelia. The consequence of that is the clock's advance determined on how we switch points. But she or they or him, any of the characters will be perceived differently based on their scores.
Okay. I guess I will comment on their choice of House Dragon's choice of wine for this evening and pass.
Which Suzerain Josa is drinking by the box. Just it's box wine.
Transia.
BYOB, yeah. BYOB, come on.
House Wolf goes for quantity, not quality.
What's the high fantasy equivalent of boxed wine?
Elderberries. Squeeze them out. Squeeze the juice.
Oh no.
It's all the stuff that's about to go bad that they haven't used yet for other.
So does it
other
pass
functions.
to Sir Catalin?
Yes.
Yes. Ooh. Throughout this dinner, I've not remained stationary. I've enjoyed and grazed all the foods, a little bit of the roast. The duck was divine. I saw the blunders of poor Chev Ophelia, and I just look upon it, and I'm like, yep, of course, that is what is ordering me around to do all of this. Okay, all right, this is fine. And I turn back to Sir Daniel, and I slide on over, and I'm like, how is the night treating you?
The night is treating me quite well, actually. I've enjoyed the meal and the entertainment. I turn to the orchestra, but means something else.
I am going to reach out to Sir Daniel and touch your shoulder. And
I let you.
Go, is that okay?
Yeah.
I go, hey, you should try the wine. The liquor we had earlier was not to my standards.
This wine or one from a different source?
let's just say one of those fountains. It's not just crystal clear waters.
Yes, I did find it quite dry. But how about you? How is the evening faring you, Sir Catalin?
I find myself uncomfortable here, and I recognize rest is important, and the food and the interactions are clearly necessary, but I just don't quite understand what my purpose is here. I'm wondering if I need to figure out a better means to interact, to find my opportunity to shine.
Oh, well, I have heard many tales of the wolf and yourself on the battlefield, but I am sure you are fully aware that even a delightful meal can be as deadly as the battlefield.
Oh, you bring up a very good point. I often forget that that is true. Words can be as deadly as the blade, indeed. What are you looking to get out of this? Are you spreading the faith? Are you gathering tithes? You gaining favor?
I always spread the faith wherever I can. Our Lord demands it, and I am but a servant to what is true and just. And tithe is just a small part of what I do. Surely in the light of pure radiance and knowledge, a bit of coin is nothing to an immortal soul.
Suzerain Josa is rosy-cheeked and about to fall over, was just getting ready to hand over, the last of her coin purse to make a donation to the church. Coin's nothing, but should they want it, it's here. All of it. Also, I want to call out real quick, thank you, Smokebeard, for the 15-pound donation. Each player will have a crit in our adventure part of the game, so thank you so much.
Nice.
Oh, shit.
Nice. I think I lean in close to you, Catalin, and I say, I hear that the reason they send a pup into the wild is not to merely train it, but to see it fail. It is sad when the pack releases a mongrel.
You speak quite plainly. We are not one to coddle. We are one to engage efficiently.
Oh, of course. But one does not speak of dogs. Tell me, are you a cat person?
You cannot speak of such secrets aloud.
I do not. I merely have heard such things from uncultured people, and I merely wish to guide you in the proper course of how such things should be handled.
Oh, are you offering advice?
Always.
You think I need advice?
Is that not what you asked of me before, Sir Catalin? Of how to gain favor?
I merely asked what you are doing, dear Rose Knight.
Ah, well then. My apologies. I look forward to our meetings further on.
House Wolf might be employed by House Lion, but one can not just assume we accept a lower position.
Of course. You should be free to ride a station that befits your deeds.
Naturally. I'm glad you see it that way.
Have you tried the elderberries, by the way?
Oh, God. What do you think I am? I leave that to Josa.
Josa comes up, takes the elderberries out of Sir Daniel's hands, and thank you. Just can't get enough of these.
I love this trash fire.
Oh, suzerain Josa. I'm never ready when she's along.
The pride of the wolf.
I don't mean to ruffle your feathers, just merely chatting it up with you.
Oh, trust me, it takes a lot more to ruffle my feathers. Perhaps you'll find out.
Oh yes, you're very particular in your preenings, aren't you?
One must look good in all things in sight of the Lord.
Sir Cataline will finish the conversation with a very pointed stare of skepticism anytime you mention the Lord. And I don't think I'm going to spend any points this round, but I think I've achieved what I wanted in terms of socializing.
Sure, and with that, we dine into the evening. There's other events that occur. I'm going to... who has the most crown points right now? Before we trade.
That is the Antilia.
So, Marcy, you get to decide how the negotiations turned out in the end between House Lion and House Dragon, and I'd like you to also flag it as something as positive or negative. Oh, a bunch of bits, 600 bits. This is going to get mucky.
Lovely. So I think that, let me just make sure, there we go. I think that the negotiations turn out that House Dragon agrees to pay the full sum of what they were paying before, with an allowance to allocate it from other sources. But the sources that they're allocating it from affect their population negatively, especially in the lower castes. Does that sound like something that House Dragon would do?
I think because what we were trying to negotiate for was, yes, we'll increase our taxes, but we want a greater cut of our opening up market share for ourselves, so that we have new venues, and so the taxes ends up becoming a wash in a way, because like it effectively becomes the same amount that we were paying before because we have new revenue coming in.
I can work with that. So everything that I just said, and then on the Eagles side, their job is to supply that new revenue. So while it's negatively affecting your population now, in the long run, they will benefit from a market boom, but it's not happening right now, and it might take a little bit to settle them, with the promise that Eagle is sending market expansion.
All right. And I have... as a result of the Phantom Roll Booth's generous bit donation, it forced a tarot reading, which is the inverted tower, which essentially means a lack of change. So House Dragon has expanded their market share, but then they very cleverly said, wait till they hear about tax deferments. high-five each other. They're going to defer their taxes for several years. So they're going to have 3 years of plenty, and they're like, no, we'll pay those.
Oh my god.
The most cunning advocates in the land. Now you each will go around again. We'll just go again counterclockwise. Pro, M, Poisel, Marcy, Jess. And go ahead and decide if you'd like to give a narrative point to anyone or trade points as a result of your interactions in that scene. Maybe your perception of someone change. And you just take it from your pool and pass it to theirs. A single point.
Yeah. I don't. Let's see. I don't see. So, are these like permanent fluctuations? Do they like reset or like?
Oh, they're permanent. So just as you hand a point over, but as you've seen, there's many different opportunities to get points.
To get more. Yeah.
They come and they go.
I don't think I think I've seen what I kind of expected from everyone, really. So I don't think anything has really changed or shifted. Not yet, anyway, at least.
Are there any type of points that you're seeking that you would like to add to your pools? Because then you can say, I would like this, and someone on the table can say, I'll trade you this for one of those. Or if you give me one of those.
Not particularly, no. I think they are very happy with the station right now.
What about you, Em?
I think after that interaction, I probably would award a point of glory to Sheva and Timony, because I think glory is the right score there. Because they impressed me in a pretty major way that I wasn't expecting with that interaction. So, yeah, it's not... I wouldn't say that was a particularly positive impression that they made, but it was a respect increased sort of interaction. So I think I'll award them a point of glory.
All right, so subtract one from yours and add it, and Timony, you're up.
And in response, I guess, to Ophelia, is I wanted to kind of raise up Ophelia, saying they are the kind of the younger lion, and I am kind of newer within House Dragon to the political scene, having recently left the university, the Intramuros. So I kind of, in respecting the missteps that you made, I kind of defer to you in that way and give you a point of crown to raise your own political capital and defer my own, so that might establish you as an ally politically.
That makes sense.
And her Star of the Skies.
I think that Rosary is wasn't so diplomatically driven in that situation. I think that she is actually personally interested in Shev and Timony, which is the only reason that she pressed for at least some of those things to go through. And so I'm going to award a point of passion.
All right, so it'll pass from yours over. And Sir Cataline.
I believe throughout, like, maybe not in this scene specifically, but I imagine Sir Cataline is aiming for glory in the long run, and would like to award one passion point to Sir Daniel for their lovely spiritual speakings.
Thank
All
you.
right. Serjoza also, since I played in the game, I'll award 1 point. Awards a point of passion to Ser Daniel, as that is who they interacted with the most. And so as a result of this, I also will assign some tags. Tags are legendary qualities, so years from now, hundreds or thousands of years, people will tell stories of these brave knights during this period of civil strife. There will be romances, these large collections of stories written about them. And they will go as follows. So as the game master, I assign these tags. So I'm going to add to Ser Daniel, Golden Tongue. He speaks and people listen. To Chev Orphelia, it will be Lion's Heart, willing to go in and be surrounded by literal and figurative dragons. And even though she was in over her head, she survived the ordeal and came out stronger for it. Chev Antimony is going to be given it's not, I don't want the negative thoughts behind mastermind, but I'm going to give the tag architect. So in architect, that through great education in thought and cerebration, you can construct situations and ideals, plots and schemes that will be beneficiary. Her Star of the Skies will receive the Respected Leader tag. She was petitioned for support and insight in mediation and is viewed as a respected leader. And Sir Cataline, I don't know why I feel this way, but I want to give you the tag Predator. No, just
It was the shoulder touch.
it was not in a negative way, but I want to give Leader of the Pack. So it's one of those where all the wolves there, even someone as aged and respected as Suzerain Joza, and I think it would have been Chev Orphelia who probably noticed there was always sort of a group of wolves who kind of followed Cataline and were never that far. And if Cataline spoke, they would have been there. So if there was a fight, they were ready at all times. Even the lush Joza would have found a sword or something comparable. And so you have all received these tags. The way they work is in our adventure game. If you feel a tag will help you get through a situation, you exhaust it. It's a kind of a one-use item, similar to a cipher and cipher system. You just use your tag and then it goes away. But it'll essentially be when they tell the story of how you overcame these conflicts. That's essentially how you solve the problem in the story, or how you failed to solve the problem. You relied on your great intellect, or you relied on being a leader, and it either succeeded or failed. So the seasons have advanced in the game, and we now move to the second part where we advance clocks. You can't see these on the screen. However, the people are beginning to feel a great unrest in the land. There are rumors of shenanigans going on, what they feel are legal shenanigans. In fact, they feel that there is an inequality in who is being taxed and who is not being taxed. And they feel that the wealth of House Dragon is allowing them to take advantage of all the laws. However, House Dragon very clearly will point, the laws exist for us to follow. So there has been some vandalism on the estates of House Dragon in the Middle Country, not too far from the capital. Likewise, there is rumors that the Solar Empire has landed an investigative force. They are a kingdom to the south. So if you live in the Land Royal, the Solar Empire is essentially a nation to the south that has landed ships on the southern shores. And they are beginning to pursue and investigate the situation to the south. But there's words that they're establishing a colony on your soil. Last but not least, there have been a lot of rumors that the Church of the Sun, the Order of the Suns, has been preaching in the Marmors. However, the locals in the Marmors have not been receptive to the teachings, so the Church is trying to break them of what they call bad habits. And the Church is essentially setting up almost like a second feudal state and punishing those that adhere to the old ways, the ancient ways. And the rumor is that the Church is becoming violent in their administration of their doctrines. So what started as a mission of preaching has quickly turned into riots and unrest. So the citizens of the Marmors don't want more churches to be built. They don't want the mission to be there any longer. The Solar Empire has landed on the southern tips of the kingdom and is establishing a colony. And as well, the people are getting upset about taxation. So essentially, in Sutmarch is where you would have a very small segment, and it's not more than a beach. You know, it's just there is a beach, and on that beach, the Solar Empire, some of their citizens have settled there and sort of are beginning to associate and assemble on your lands, however, not saluting your crown. Likewise, in the Middle Country, there has been violence where the peasantry have been vandalizing the gentry's estates. And then in the Marmors, there have been violence in the mission of the Church of the Sun. So, I'd like to hear from each knight which situation you'd like to tackle this year. There were 3 problems, all of varying degrees of difficulty, of which you don't necessarily know yet. I have rolled 10-sided dice and have added it to the totals where our clocks are at, which creates kind of the challenge between 0 to 11-ish. So discuss amongst yourselves as players, and then whoever has the most crown points has the final say.
What if the crown points are tied right now? Because they are between Chevrophilia and the Atelier.
Then we defer to the ruling house. In this situation, we have that. Essentially, we have the crown, which is Marcy's character in this situation. Marcy would get to decide in this situation based on being Atelier. It's a special position that only Marcy has. Otherwise, it would go to House Lion.
It's Marcy.
Yeah. Otherwise, it would. There would be house rankings based on the type of mission.
Okay.
I would say House Wolf is very concerned with the uproar and taxation and misrepresentation. So we're at the forefront. We're gonna have to deal with the people who are angry as we collect. So that would be our top priority.
House Eagle, no surprise, is worried about the church popping up and the things surrounding that. So they want to tackle that and see what's going on there.
I believe House Lion is concerned about the possible colony being established to the south, but a more immediate concern is the civil unrest around the taxation issue. So I think they'd probably target that first.
Yeah. Similarly, as a member of House Dragon and members of the gentry are there's vandalism in the middle country, then that is a big priority for us. Personally, the expedition from the Solar Empire in the south is much more interesting to Antimony, as others can handle the taxes, but I want to see these people from elsewhere. So I'm kind of split between those two myself.
Damn taxes getting in the way.
Yeah.
So, what do you decide?
Antilia?
I'm sorry, did somebody say they were not respecting the authority of the crown? I'm sorry, were those words that were spoken?
That's all I heard.
Yeah, that's like people are like, yeah, I got me. It's just like, oh, establishing their own thing, the threat of the crown. That one. That one.
My furtor.
I could have sworn I heard that. That's so weird. Did anyone else hear that? Let's take care of that problem, shall we?
All right. So, it sounds like you're headed to the south and deal with the Solar Empire?
Yes.
All right.
Immediately. Wow.
All right. So, the Solar Empire is down to the south. So, let's now. I join the game for you viewers at home who are learning this new system. So, we've determined the quests that they're going on, and the quest of this year was Colony of the Sun. There are 6 sides on the 6 sides on our progress clock. Should this clock segments will be filled based on the actions of our characters. So describe how you knights came together, because this is essentially the Order of Knights. Though you all belong to different houses, you are all Knights of the Crown. And this particular group has been assembled. Suzerain Josa is not there anymore. Describe to me how you look as you are traveling south from capital, and how the journey is. We are now in a more traditional adventure game, similar to Dungeons & Dragons, Cypher System, Vagabonds of the Foot, Dungeon World, Apocalypse World, etc. We are now in that mode, so your narrative authority goes away slightly, and now we have a game master. So I would like each of you to sort of describe to me as a group, how are you approaching the colony? What's your attitude towards it? Are you going to annihilate them? Are you going to establish diplomacy? I'm really curious how you knights intend. So lay out your schemes to me.
Sir Danielle intends to talk, debate, and find out how they got here, when they got here, and why they seem to think that they can squat on an area that is someone else's, and if they'll be willing to integrate. And by integrating, that means bowing to the crown and kneeling in the church.
I think, and Antimony also wants to talk, but Antimony wants to approach this a little bit more politically. I see that the Solar Empire exists. We don't have very many ties with them, but if we can resolve this peacefully, perhaps establish some sort of embassy, perhaps we could have new trading partners with our potential allies to the south.
To clarify, the Antilia is here also, correct? As part of this?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
I'm a fighting queen.
I love that so much.
Queen of the people.
Respect my authority, she says with her giant sword. So Chef Ophelia is here, I think. So she understands the value of diplomacy. However, my motivation here is very much ensuring that these people, if they're going to be here, they will respect the crown. So I'm actually here mostly as kind of support to the Antilia, to the crown, and making sure that our authority here remains unchallenged by whether that's through careful diplomacy or through force if it's required. I don't particularly care. I will do whatever is necessary to make sure that our authority remains unquestioned. But I'm not opposed to diplomacy, if that's the easier way to go about this.
That's a lot of houses.
Don't mind that.
I think Sir Cataline will be really just watching Antilia, waiting for the Star of the Skies to voice prioritization, a sort of expectation of our travels, because at this point Sir Cataline is incredibly irritated that these sunny folk dare step foot and try to intrude. It's not something I would take lightly, and I would just be in that position to bite my tongue until told to raise my sword.
So there are going to be 9 squires that are joining these knights. I have rolled randomly behind the scenes. 3 are from House Wolf. Josa will join you. I guess she's coming along. Alina and Alona. There are 4 members of House Dragon. And these members of House Dragon are Alexandros, Aphrodisios, Diana Sodoros. And dinosaurs did this to us? And Epictetus.
They have very short arms.
Oh no! And there's also 1 member of House Eagle, Beatrice, who is the mentor to Chef Ophelia, and 1 member of House Lion, who's Donald. He's Donald. Yeah, I know. Everyone else.
This poor house.
Such exotic names.
I know. The exotic Donald.
The royalty can't be bothered with exotic names.
How dare they? And we'll actually name this one Kippy. And let me add in Beatrice and Donald. So they are all writing out. So you might order the squires to do things. They're kind of like little expendable assets. You know, they're squires. You can send them off to go get reinforcements. You can set them up strategically. Think of them in terms of an adventure game. They're like little 1-hit point people for the most part. However, these are your squires. You can reintroduce them in the narrative later, or choose however you want to keep them. They are your friends. For example, Beatrice is a mentor to Ophelia, and they might have advice. So you are riding out with your 9 squires, the crown, and some of the most well-known knights in the land. So these aren't just like nameless, faceless people. There's probably been, in our day, 2019, 100 books written on Sir Cataline or Chef Antimony. These are the people of legend. You know, you are mythical characters. You're not, nameless characters or randoms. So there has, the story of the Antillier has probably been translated into 24 languages right now. So you have these legendary qualities, and this is the great story of this time. And you're approaching the beach. By what direction do you approach it? do you go into the waters yourself and show up? Do you go in disguise? Do you come straight out of the land? You are about 17 miles from any known town. Antimony is very familiar with these routes, having studied in the Intramuros in Sutmarch. The beach is very rocky, cliff-like.
I think tactically, coming from the north might be a little bit more defensible, and if we do need to fall back, or if we do need to make an assault or something, it gives us a little bit more options. It also makes us slightly more visible so that they can see that we ride under the banner of the crown, and that we come initially not as a fighting force, but as a diplomats. That's my opinion to the NTLA as my assessment of it.
So are we sending like an NPC like messenger to announce our arrival?
Not
Do you want to
So
send
isn't
the
this-
scouts?
Well,
would
since
send
it was the diplomatic mission, like, are we going in to surprise them, or are we going in to parlay with them?
Fanfare scouts announce us dramatically.
Do you want to be? Who would you like to send from your squires as sort of emissaries? This is actually good to do.
Yeah,
I
Donald.
would.
Donald.
The exotic Donald.
But a pantsless sailor with a large billed face comes up. Oh, it's funny.
that's
It's
so
Mickey and the
exotic.
Beanstalk all over again.
Okay.
Donald is willing to ride out. Donald's not afraid. Donald's. So let's ask Chef Ophelia. What could you tell us about your squire, Donald?
Donald?
Because you are a knight. Donald is beneath you.
All right.
Aw.
Donald is very big, very dumb, very willing to help. And we send him on messages a lot because people just really like him. Like, he's just really an endearing kind of guy. So, yeah, like, you would never send him on a diplomatic mission because, like, he's not quite the sharpest knife in the drawer, but, like, for getting people to agree to talk to other people who for those diplomatic missions, he's absolutely our guy. I think that's Donald.
All right. I want you to roll a 10-sided die for me. And you're going to get to
Can I do
add
that in
plus
real life,
one.
or do you want
If
me to do it in fantasy?
you can do it real life or fantasy grounds, whatever you're most. And here's before you roll the die, let's talk a little bit about resolving this action. So there's a difficulty number. At this point, I want it to be hidden from you. If you have any attractive qualities that apply to this, we can apply that before you roll. If you want to spend points from your cerebration pool, you can spend up to 3. And then we decide if your house engages. Essentially, I decide whether being of House Lion positively or negatively impacts the situation. You can decide if you'd like to exhaust a legendary quality, and then you roll if needed. Do you feel Chev Ophelia sending Donald on this sort of initial first contact? Do you feel you have any attractive qualities that might apply, or simply add 1 to the roll if you do?
So one of my attractive qualities, bold, and Donald is not a particularly subtle dude, and this is not a particularly cautious first move. I think
He pulls out his bugle, nods. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
It comes out of the woods bugling.
Yeah. So if you think that bold would count for
100%.
an attractive quality, I can use.
100%. So using Donald is a 1. Applying an attractive quality, you're at tool. Do you want to spend any points of cerebration? You can spend up to 3.
How do those refresh? Remind me again. Or
At
do
the
they
end of the
not?
adventure.
Okay. I'll spend a point of celebration then. Yeah.
Okay. You
Alright,
are now
so
up to 3.
Okay.
Your house isn't going to impact this positively or negatively. And you received a tag in our last game. What was your tag that you received?
Lion's Heart.
Okay, Lion's Heart. If you'd like, you could exhaust that, and it would allow, you would describe fictionally how this looked, but I imagine essentially you might give Donald a little extra resolve. But still pretty early in this adventure, so you might want to hold off. All right.
Yeah, I think I'll save that. So yeah, okay, so then that's a D10 plus 3?
Yes, and go ahead and roll a 10-sided die, and 0 through 9. So if you get a 10, it's a 0.
Okay.
Tell me what you get.
Alright. That is a 6.
All right, so you have a total of 9 to solve this task. So Donald goes out. He's gone for almost 2 hours. Donald comes back, and he has plates of food that he's offering for everyone. You can tell he's eating like half the plate. He's like, "There's like a whole party going on down there. It's great. They love us. They loved me. You gotta check them out." And you can see like there is like grease running down the front of his arm, and then he kind of looks, starts wiping it off.
Oh no, I love him.
Oh,
He is by far the pride of the Lions.
Thanks, Antimony.
I look at Shemorphelia and I double back at Donald and I'm like, did you not teach your squire to never accept food from foreigners? What?
Well,
we'll see
It
how he's
seems to have
doing in
worked
about
out.
an hour.
Oh, God.
well.
Oh no, I got an iron stomach there, Your Majesty. Majesty. I'm not supposed to talk to you. He says, and he kind of like shuns. That's kind of the rule, Donald. He's been
quite
told a
okay,
couple
Donald.
times.
It is okay.
Thanks, he says. He's got like meats coming out of his teeth and black speck, and he's kind of waves. She talked to me, he says to Beatrice, who is not paying attention at all. So they have invited. They seem friendly and festive.
Okay, beautiful. By the way, Rosary today has dyed her hair light pink and is wearing armor, like well-fitting black and white painted armor, and she wears a purple cape, like a deep velvety night sky purple cape. She is dressed to kick ass, but here to talk.
Nice.
So you've been invited down. What do you do then? How do you approach? You've been invited. The path is straight, and Donald's kind of sketched out a little map because you just kind of go down the hill. There's a fort. It's clearly walled. They have built walls, but their doors are open. They seem to be having some sort of a party.
Shall we?
Yes.
They've invited us. They've invited us in.
Her words.
They took my words.
No, she's been poisoned. So as you approach, you're about 100 feet off at the bottom of the hill, and you can kind of overlook and see over the wall. The wall doesn't do much good if, obviously, this fortification that they built seems almost more ceremonial in design, because clearly if they were warriors defending a position, they would not set up an open-walled fort that you could bombard from the top of a hill, which you could clearly do if you want. And you can see a large bonfire that they've raised. They seem to be having a cookout of sorts. However, you can see that there are at least 20 armor-clad soldiers kind of performing what looks like some sort of ritual combat at the bottom of the hill.
Interesting.
Are they sparring with weapons? Are they?
Oh yes,
What's the...
and these are
Okay.
straight up real weapons too. These are blades, actual blades.
Is their technique very exotic?
No, it seems very, very rudimentary. In fact, Sarah Cataline is positive she could kill every one of them within a minute.
Yep. I would look over to the Star of the Skies and I'd be like, I would be remiss for all of House Wolf to just walk in. Maybe, perhaps, we would feel better if I sit back in case something happens.
If you would like. That would be wise, I think.
Suzerain Josa will keep you company. House Wolf will be represented.
Of course. I do like Josa. More wine.
Josa, yeah, Josa kind of looks, but Josa just has her eyes on the food, and she's like, "So, beg your pardon? Oh my goodness, delicious."
Antimony is going to order that Dion Sildros
Donald?
and
Okay.
no, one of my fires.
Yes.
Dion Sildros. So yeah, Sordoros. I'm just gonna call him Dion. And Epictetus will stay back there. The two of the more martially inclined squires that I have. To keep to not bring in such strong force inside, but to be there on the outside as reinforcements if necessary, along with Sir Caitlin. And Alexandros is my personal man at arms, and Archipe, they are my squire, but closer to a personal attendant in a way.
Yeah, like a groom or a foot person.
Yes. Kind like that would be if that would be the relationship that people would see. There's more to the relationship between me and Archipe than
Cool.
this.
And okay,
I also think that Danielle would have told Beatrice to go find whoever is in charge here and to tell them to greet their ruler in this land.
that I will do. And with no hesitation, Beatrice rides out on a white horse down the hill, regal bearing. The light of the sun glistens off of her pale armor, and she rides out. As she is approaching the camp, you notice those involved in ritual combat stop what they're doing and kind of turn and look. She rides out very, very bold and dashing, straightway into the camp. And now, Pro, I'd like you to roll a 10-sided die, but before we do that, essentially there's going to be some diplomacy. So you get a point for using Beatrice, and then we will go down our list. Do you have any personal attractive qualities? Well, you have a lot, right? That would help in her liaising with
beautiful
Solar
and
Empire.
graceful.
Graceful, so that will apply to Beatrice in this situation by extension. So Beatrice is, quite striking, very tall, very like something out of a painting. And so she writes down, do you want to spend any points of your adventure pool? And it can come out of dashing if you would like.
Let's see here. My adventure pool. Yeah, I think I'll spend one for dashing as well.
Okay, so a point from dashing, and the house tenants. As Beatrice has gone inside, she has noticed there are small carvings. The carvings are of various idols. There's talismans. There's totems. There are strange herbs being lit that are not found naturally here within the Land Royal. And there are what looks to be strange animal sacrifices being performed. She's not okay with this. These look like what she would call heathen practices on your soil. So there's actually going to be a slight negative modifier. And then would you like to use your Golden Tongue legendary quality to, as she speaks, or would you like to save that for later?
I think I'm going to save that. Just the fact that we already had like an envoy, and it seemed to go well for like them like warming to us. Does that add anything to it?
Not in this particular situation. It sort of went sort of like this. If you pop into say an office, the receptionist might greet you very nice, but if you walk into the office, walk past the receptionist to the door of the president of the company and kick the door open, might get a different reception. So Beatrice writing out, we've just received a 2,500 bit donation to summon Sir Daniel du Eagle's special mount. That is a phenomenal donation. So if you want to describe your mount in a very special way, you can, but also mechanically, we will receive the following benefit, where I believe there's going to be a legendary tag applied to Sir Daniel. And this legendary tag is going to be... here's my question for you. Would you like to relate to... Which personality trait would you like it to add to? What quality about yourself? And I'll tell you what it is.
I think I have a lot of... stuff about like my exterior. I think more my more intellect based, I think.
I'm going to give you the legendary tag of multilingual. If you ever encounter anyone who's speaking in a secret language, a code, or a natural language, exhausting your tag, Sir Daniel du Eagle understands. We don't necessarily have to say hi. It's similar to in the Three Musketeers novels. Athos, doesn't matter where they go, I bet he knows some English, and he does. I bet he knows how to sail, and he does. So he just always sort of knew these little things. So thank you so much for the bit donation. So now what I need you to do is go ahead and roll a 10-sided die for me. Tell me what you get.
Let me describe my steed as well. That was.
Oh yeah, please do.
It's a large, like beautiful white horse. It has the mane and the tail has these multiple ribbons kind of woven into it, and they're like from the mane to the tail. It's this like rainbow pattern. Kind of going through, and the horse isn't armor or anything like that. It's bound and beautiful.
My God, it's so extra.
It's
all right
in horse form.
And on the 10-sided die, what is your result?
Say 10-sided. 7 plus the modifiers, whatever you gave me.
Yes. So Beatrice rides out and tells the leader come out to, you will come and you will kneel to the crown. There are...
I meant it less
Well, this is
kneel,
just-
but more greet.
Well, yes, you did. However, Beatrice has a mind of her own. And however, I will say this: the way she delivers it, though, it is as if an angel has landed from the heavens. However, angels are not beloved by all. And you can see from the top of the hill several individuals. They are wearing cloaks that look like they are covered in crow's feathers. They are masked, beaked masks, sort of come out of these small huts. And then a tall person with a very high crown. And at the top of the crown, there is a large, essentially circular emblem comes out. There's some exchange of words. You can't hear them. But what do? You're all watching this from above, and you notice the armed soldiers are essentially, they're starting to close in a little closer on the camp. Beatrice is down there alone. What do you, the knights and the squires, do? They're maybe 30 yards off, so they're not too far.
I start as if I'm going to actually ride out and to help, because this is my mentor, and then I catch myself and I look to the Antillier, because that's who I'm here for, and I will do as she commands in this instance. But clearly looking at the rest of you like, we gotta do something. She's one of ours.
She is one of ours, but we sent the messenger, and the messenger knows the dangers of being a messenger.
Are they going to
There
make
is a...
calls?
I will say this. Beatrice is still in the camp. This tall person and 4 individuals in cloaks of black feathers, slouched, hunched, kind of moving. You can see as they're coming closer, these are much larger human beings than you are used to seeing. They're much larger than the people here of the Land Royal naturally are approaching. So there is a group of 5. The footmen down below, they seem to sort of be prowling near Beatrice, but she's kind of, keeping them so they can never quite get behind her, and she is sort of in command. However, there's an uneasy tension down below. You also notice that there appears to be one large hut in the most northeastern corner of their small colony they've established that none of them have gone in or out of. It just sort of seems off to the side. And there's a strange marking on it.
What kind of marking? I am Antimony is well educated and well read. And
do you want to spend any cerebration points? Both of those add.
Yes, I can. I will. Well, my tract qualities are actually educated and disciplined. I would. I'll spend I'll spend 2 points from cerebration.
Okay, so you spend 2 points of cerebration. You have your attractive qualities. You don't need to roll in this situation. You know that this is a sign. It's a sign of that essentially, translated loosely, it's labeled property to sell for market. That's kind of the loose translation.
Okay.
There's also a smaller symbol that says, essentially, keep out. It's like, don't go in there unless you're allowed.
Yes. All right.
Beware of dogs.
It all seems quite disturbing, but the messenger has been sent, and until we get a reply, we should not need to enter.
They're coming up the hill. The large person in the four, essentially crow-faced individuals, kind of hail for you knights and your squires to come down the hill. There are 5 of them. There are many of you.
And Beatrice?
She's still in their camp, and you kind of can tell from your position, they don't seem like they want to let Beatrice out of their camp right now. They've cut her off from the rest of you.
Okay. Okay, let's meet them.
Do we walk?
Yeah.
You can ride or walk. It's up to you.
I'll ride.
Then I will also.
I'm right.
Are your squires coming with you?
keeping our
What commands do
weapons
you give them?
sheathed? Yeah.
I want to whisper something to. I'd lean over to one of my squires that I'd left up here, because we haven't left from like Caitlin's side even, to Pictetus, who is, while martially adept, is a little smaller than my other squires, a little bit, little mousier. And I'll whisper to them. I'll be like, if you can, have eyes on the large building there in the back. If you can get close, don't go in. But if you can hear what you can. I have some thoughts on it.
So, to make sure I understand correctly, Epictetus is going to do a little bit of recon for you, a little bit of listening.
Yes.
And to make sure I understand clearly, sort of in their camp, kind of get a little intel.
Yeah. Yeah, they can like skirt the outsides. It's not a quick thing. But what Antimony fears and thinks now is that building houses slaves.
Roll a 10-sided die for me. And you get to add 1 and any dashing valor or describing the action. This is most likely a dashing.
Yeah, I will spend 2 from my dashing for this.
Okay.
And I have the graceful quality.
Yep.
I don't know if I can use
that adds
for that. All right. So I'm adding 1 for
10-sided
Epictetus.
plus. Yeah.
All right. So 1 for Epictetus, 2 or 1 from graceful, and 2 from dashing.
And then roll a 10-sided die and add that to the total.
How does this work?
You can do it in there or an actual die. So you can pick up a 10-sided die and throw it out.
That was a 4 on the die on Fantasy Cards.
Okay.
So then plus 4, so 8.
He's clearly down there, and your eyes meet him, and he gives you a hand signal that you know, and this is essentially there's people in there, not from this land, but they don't look like them, and they are bound. You can kind of discern this. There's the signal. It's like, we've got slavers.
Yeah. Okay. So while we're heading down to meet the party coming towards us, I will lean over and relay that to the NTLA. I'll kind of lean in close if she'll allow, and whisper into your ear. They are slavers. They bring bodies for sale in the large building down there.
Not in my country.
So you are now roughly, I'd say about 10 yards away, 10 meters, about 30 feet or so. You're meeting eye to eye. The tall one calls out, and he goes, "I am the Eclipse. I speak for the sun. We have rights to use these lands, ancestral rights.
Didn't Atelier scoff? Like, was I in character?
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. I am the Antillier. I am the stars, the thousands of suns in the sky.
We know.
Good.
What brings you to our ceremony? There are higher laws than that of the crown. The laws of the heavens. The laws of our gods, of which there are many. His eyes kind of meet Sir Danielle.
Do not speak of your heathen beliefs upon the eyes of our God and our royal crown.
They ask that you leave them to continue their worship and their ceremonies. But with your blessing, since you are the crown, you are High Queen, and you are the star of the skies, at least under this sky, you grant them to enter the towns of Sutmarch. They have business here. We'd like to do this thing with your blessing.
And what is your business exactly?
Oh, little this, little that.
You'll have to be
You
more
know.
specific.
Oh, I forgot. You have to explain everything to these people, they say. And then that's when Joseph's like, what do you mean these people? And, kind of gets a little tense there. So, they're like, we have a trade agreement with a market in Sutmarch. Not from around here. And
Fair enough.
we have come to deliver certain goods, and we have come to receive payment. Your gold.
Where is Sutmarch?
It is the southeastern territory of the kingdom. It's south of the capital where you live. And there is a beach, but it's mostly woodland. It's also well known for its university. So Sutmarch is in your kingdom, the Land Royal.
It's the province we're in right now, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Okay.
And you're about
perfect.
17 miles from town.
Okay. So they have a trade agreement with Sutmarch.
With a market in Sutmarch.
Do they?
With a,
Yeah, I was
with a market in
like, their
Sutmarch.
documentation.
Yeah.
So Danielle will kind of speak up and say, what practices were you doing before we came? Speak.
Well, we're currently determining the new pecking order of our attendants. They determine their hierarchy annually, publicly, so they might determine their station and duty. You might not understand. It's
True.
our way.
Heathen ways are quite difficult to understand.
And
True valor doesn't need a public display.
what's that even supposed to mean? What, you just gonna make up what you do in private? They just kind of, scoff at this. They're like, what do you even know of valor? With your childish orders. Purchased crown.
I'm gonna call one of the squires to me.
Which one?
Let's see. Gosh, what's the one that's really hard to
Alona's
pronounce?
been waiting to get
Yeah.
Diana Sidoros.
Let's call
Ilona-
over Diana Sidoros.
Right, they come over.
All right. Hello. How are you? Good.
Oh, I'm
Wonderful.
Capital.
Excellent. I need your back for a second, Sidoris, and I'm going to take out some parchment and start writing down a note, and then I'm going to fold it up, and then pull out some wax and heat it up real quick, and put out a seal and like ask for his back again and stamp it, and then I'm going to hand it to Diana, and I say, Submarch is 17 miles from here. I need you to deliver this decree issuing slavery being illegal. There you go. Thank you.
It is, but I'll make sure they know. And
Yeah.
what should the punishment for the crime be? Is it written?
Oh.
I just want to make sure when I call it out from the tall tower.
Wouldn't it be funny
my
if it
strong
were
voice.
slavery? Wouldn't it be funny if it were slavery? And I just look back over at the heathens. But no, let's say expulsion.
All right. Yes. Dion turns, gives Chev and Timony a wink, and then bolts off on their horse, and is riding fast and hard. And with that, you're sort of at this standoff with these individuals. They have slaves.
Yeah, they do.
They've cut off
have a
Beatrice from
Realize
you.
that, do they know that we know that they do the thing?
They don't seem too interested in that.
Yeah, I don't think they care that much, but they might care when they notice they don't have a market for it anymore.
Right.
So then I will speak up and say, I want my squire back.
Go get her, they say, and they kind of laugh amongst themselves. Call
Bring
out
my
to her.
squire. I will look over and I will just beckon them to come.
Oh, you don't see her anymore.
Where is my squire?
Don't seem to have her on me. They kind of pat themselves down and laugh a little louder. Did you lose? Did you misplace her? What an embarrassing thing to lose one squire, don't you think? And the crow-cloaked individuals all go, "Caw-caw!" in a most annoying fashion. Donald kind of
Regardless.
goes, "Hey,
Regardless of title, no matter how small, we treat our individuals as people. They're not items to be lost. How dare you speak of Beatrice in such a manner?
Which happens as I use them as a table in the background.
At this point, you're doing like a grocery list or something on Donald's chest as he's like
Oh God,
eating it.
I
Yeah.
have the
God.
utmost
that's a
honor.
little too much for me. I retain a little bit of dignity.
I look to you and I say to you, Etania, my sky, may I retrieve my squire from these heathens? Church would demand such penalties.
Yes. Let's get your squire back.
And my question, Sir Daniel, do you want to do this with sword or with your voice? Because you could probably do it with either. It's up to you, though.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get off my horse, Glitter Mane. That's what I call it.
Damn.
Glittermane. I love
And
it.
I pat them, and I walk up to the one who was speaking, and I'm going to use my golden tongue, and I'm going to say, I would suggest you go and get my squire, because it may be embarrassing when I have misplaced them, but it's even worse if you misplace your head. Now go out of my sight.
I put pro in games when I want to be talked to like that. It's my guilty pleasure. So this is a difficulty of 8. So the golden tongue gives you 2. Let's figure it out. So do you want to spend any valor points? You can spend up to 3.
Yeah. Would like if I put my mentioning my sword and put my hand on my head, would Master Swordsman come into play into this as well?
Yes.
Okay.
They've probably heard stories even in the Solar Empire of Sir Daniel's blade.
Yes. Then I'm gonna spend one valor.
Is there
Okay.
an ability for like the other knights to aid? Because I would suggest that upon leaving your horse, Sir Glittermane, I would have whistled or made motion towards the other squires of Wolf to essentially surround and intimidate.
If you are surrounding them, I will say this, and if you are intimidating them, Sir Daniel will not get the opportunity to speak, and they will fight you because they will not allow themselves to be surrounded by you. With that said, you have the choice to do that, and the agency is yours.
I will say you do know that Sir Daniel is a sword master, and
They do know.
I'm out of character kind of thing, so
Yeah.
you would know that they feel confident in this moment.
Sure.
And although the Speaker of the Sun, the Eclipse, stands very tall, a solid 6'9", when Sir Daniel comes up, it almost appears, when you see this, as if they are the same height, if not a little taller. It might be a trick of the light, the angles of the shadows, we don't quite say, but Sir Daniel definitely walks as though they are taller than the Eclipse. So point another. You can get
+4, right?
you can add your Swordmaster. You've used your Golden Tongue, which adds another 2. Your house tenants won't be involved. Actually, I'll give you a +1 because it is your squire over there. So that's a 5. So I need you to roll a 10-sided die, and you need to get
a 9
a 3.
base.
And you told them to go get your squire, or did you?
Yes, I told them to go get it for me. Go get them for me.
Come back. They go. Beatriz is with them. You notice that there is some blood coming from her mouth that she wipes.
I cut down one of the people next to me.
Okay. It was Kool-Aid. No, sorry. Go ahead and roll a 10-sided die, and you can add any valor points and also your Swordmaster.
Yeah, I'm gonna add. Would dash come into play in this? Because I'm doing it quite quickly.
I feel this is more grit and bravery, but describe to me your intention. Are you doing this to impress the other knights? Are you doing this to break the enemy? Are you describe to me what the result you'd like?
So I'm basically I'm not going to kill them, but I'm basically drawing my blade and cutting them, like for like. Basically, you touch my people, I touch yours. Mm-hmm. This is what you get.
Okay. I roll a 10-sided die, and you're going to add 3 to the total, more or less.
Okay. Oops, I didn't actually go through. I got a 7 base. +3.
So, here's my question. Do you do this to the Eclipse, or one of the cloaked individuals?
I believe the Eclipse went to go get the square, so I guess I would have done it to like his entourage.
Okay. You crack one of them in the face. He drops. He's unconscious, and you can see blood running out from under the mask that they wear. And everyone else just sort of steps back from that. Beatrice is up. Epictetos, the mousy martial squire, has sort of returned as well.
I was gonna see if they're still in scouting position, because I was gonna try to relay something to them during this while people are not watching?
Then that's what happens then. Describe to me.
Okay, so while everyone's attention's on this, the issue around Beatrice and around this conversation, Antimony is kind of in the back and is just slowly making like hand signals out to Epictetus, who's still there, to let them know that if possible, to try to release the bond with at least one of the slaves, so that they can start freeing themselves.
Okay. Roll a 10-sided die for me. Straight roll, you'll get +1 because it is your squire doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd like to add any dashing to it, or cerebration. In fact, I feel this is a cerebration. It's more of a subtle intrigue.
Mm-hmm. I will... I think I'm going to, because this is important, I'm going to spend my architect quality to maneuver this situation in such a way that I get try to get what I want out of this, which is
absolutely
the freedom of these slaves and their aid in whatever conflict may come after.
Roll a 10-sided die for me. You're going to add 2 to the roll for that. You'll also, if you used a point of cerebration, one of those, as well as...
Okay, so I'm going to roll a die here, and that is a 9 on the die, plus...
That's
4.
excellent. Your intrigue goes off without a hitch. Now, these are not locals. They do not speak your tongue. You may be able to converse with them later, but that'll be a story for another time. With that, I'm curious now for you to sort of describe me how you handle the rest of the day. So the Solar Empire has conceded. Marcy has a point?
Yeah, I'd like to do something.
Sure,
I'd like to do something. I'd like to ride forward because they were asking for my blessing. And once we get Beatrice back, I'm going to say, I have a blessing for you. A new law that I think would do rather nicely. It's that any creature taken to my lands against their will has my sovereignty behind them. And you had best leave these people here and get off of my lands before I make a murder of your crows.
Okay. That's a great pun, by the way. Roll a 10-sided die. Any attractive qualities that add to that?
I'd like to spend my respected leader quality.
Cool. That'll add 2 to it. Anyone that... also, if at any point you're unsure of the roll, you all have a critical, so you can roll 2 10-sided die as well. So this is a challenge of 8 because it is the eclipse that must.
Yeah, I'm gonna use my critical to roll 2. I got a 9 on the die.
Woo!
Yes.
And they break, and they are going to depart. They have essentially they've agreed they're going to break camp, and the eclipse is viewed essentially as a dead star at this point. They don't really seem to have, it's one of these things where the crows. They look at the one on the ground. They look at the eclipse that's bowing. And the slaves have been taken out of the camp. They're being taken off the beach by the squire. He's going to make sure that they are. Marcy, what you have started in chat is going to break down.
No! How did
Darn you, face on! Total eclipse of the heart.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Now, so so the Solar Empire is going to break. They are not going to remain on these lands. They have been run off. It is later discovered that the food they were serving may not have been traditional meats. I'm
Is it made of
curious
people?
how
Is it people, Grant?
the world may never know.
Did I
Donald.
not warn you?
Oh, Donald, you were warned.
Oh no, Donald! Bless his heart.
Yeah, right. He's gonna be
Donald.
messed
Just
up.
nobody ever tell
No
him.
one tell Donald.
Nobody tell him. He must never know.
His hunger
As-
rises.
As the knights have solved the situation and they see it through, you have made sure every ship of the Solar Empire has left. Their fort is down. The people that reside here now, they have very, very, very. They have sort of an odd complexion. It's sort of just a very deep, vibrant color. They look as though, they have definitely been both sun-kissed and star-kissed. They have sort of a gorgeous quality about them, but there's also sort of an innate sense of wonder about them. These lands are strange to them. Are you going to leave any of your squires with them to watch over, essentially, the beach? Because they need a place to stay. Are you sending them back to town? Are you taking them to capital? What do you do?
I'm inclined to let them stay temporarily on this land with squires, because nobody was occupying this land anyway.
No one was. And that's what they will do. How many squires do you want to leave with them, and which ones?
I'll leave that to the group.
I would offer
They're not my squires.
Helena for guard. Helena would stay. Do we assume they communicate like same language? You understand us?
They don't. No, they don't.
Okay.
I'll leave Epictetus. I'll leave Dionysodoros with them. Yeah. And perhaps with my training at the Intramuros, I can help either figure out how to understand them or help them understand us to help the integration process as through the help of House Dragon.
Okay, I'm going to add Dion is going to be acting as ambassador. I have a question for Chev Orphelia, who's been quite quiet during most of this encounter. You've noticed for the first time in your life, you see Chev Beatriz is shedding a single tear after this ordeal. How does that impact you, and what do you do?
I think that is pretty shocking.
You don't think she was capable of tears?
No, not even a little. So after some hesitation, where are we in this moment? What is?
You're allowed to establish where you would like to be. Okay. You have defeated the Solar Empire. At this moment, I would say you're establishing and determining who will stay with these lost ones who have been found. And she's essentially on her horse, just sort of distant and watching the going-ons. She's not taking a leadership role as she normally would.
Okay. Then I will, after a moment's hesitation, ride up beside her, and kind of do the awkward sort of lean over. What are you looking at?
And she's sort of stops for a second. She sort of reaches over and for the first time just kind of like lightly takes your hand. You let her?
I do.
And she just sort of holds it for a while. And she sort of leans and she says to you, she says, I'm making sure that they don't come back.
I don't understand.
And then she sort of pauses for a second. She goes, but you will. In your lifetime, you will. And then she sort of squeezes your hand tight for a second. And with that, we're going to sort of fade to black on the scene. And now we're going to move into a part of the game where we get to talk about how our knights have evolved and changed over the course of this session, both in sort of the initial scene as well as sort of this interaction with the Solar Empire slavers. Now, there is still civil unrest going on between the townsfolk in Middle Country. There as well are there's religious strife occurring in the Marmors, but that is not the focus of this year's story. The war clock has reset to 0, so it's not on the board anymore. And each of you first, before we move into sort of our character summaries, you each have the option to advance or move one dial on the clock one way or the other. So we'll go around real quick, and we'll actually start with M. So you have the option to roll back Revolution, Inquisition, or advance War, Revolution, or Inquisition on the clock, and that will be its starting position in the next session. I hear myself.
Yeah.
That's my voice. Shoot, what a nerd. No.
Well, okay, to answer your question, well, that gets worked out. I think it would make sense to actually advance Revolution a little bit, because we did not deal with the whole taxation issue, really, or the whole, like, peasantry having some issue with that. That was an issue at one point.
All right. And then, Pro, how would you like to manipulate the clocks?
I will think the church is going to take a harder stance after what they've seen, and they're going to make sure that no one is doing anything with the sun or that kind of ways, or any other kind of religious kind of activities. So I think Inquisition will go on.
All right. And Inquisition will advance. Ooh, it's halfway full. Half empty. No. And what does Chev Antimony think? How would you like to advance and manipulate the clocks?
I think with this defeat of the Solar Empire and the gracious inclusion of these freed slaves into the kingdom, it is a small boost to like morale within the kingdom, and I think it actually sets the revolution clock back just a little bit.
Okay. And her Star of the Skies.
Oh, there's a lot to unpack here. And the Intellier feels disconnected from her people now more than ever. There's a lot that she's learned this year that has been going on in the country that has just sprung up from other things. And I think she would endeavor to make a circuit of traveling knights who would travel and then report back to her on the going on in the country. And in this way, I'd like to push revolution back.
Okay.
She's going to start endeavoring to not only be the skies above, but the skies reflected on the sea below.
And Sir Cataline?
Gosh, going last, I like twice got shot in the foot. I'm like, yes, that's okay. In this year of interacting with Sir Daniel and seeing the colony of the sun being dealt with and their heathen practices, I would have to agree that the faith is important now more than ever. And while I still remain skeptical of the faith, I can, with my own eyes, I can see how having such faith provides a strength in power and number. So I would move forth with the Inquisition.
Ooh, so you're setting it forward or backwards? Forward? All these all the House Wolf join on. They're like, yeah, we'll hunt people down for the church. We got them. Rough them up. Tithes, offerings, hand them over.
I could see some like future issues with this because I'm trying to establish a group of traveling knights that are for the crown and not necessarily for the church. And the Inquisition's like,
100%.
we already do that. And I'm like, we just kicked out slavers. You're not doing it hard enough. Like, where have you been? There's a million of y'all. Where are you?
So-
Considering it like a dial back in terms of we've been collecting all the taxations, and I'm just like, House Wolf doesn't want to ruffle the people's feathers too much. If we're bringing back the revolution.
So, now let's sort of talk about how we've grown and changed as knights over the course of the year this year. Let's start with antimony.
Ooh,
Take about 30 seconds.
Okay, I think Antimony has grown from a kind of new player fresh from university to somebody who sees a kingdom that needs a political shadow behind it, a mind working to help keep things in order. What that order may be yet, they don't know, but they are enjoying their position and the insights it's bringing.
You gain a tag. You've exhausted Architect, but you've gained a new tag where you've received the tag Liberator through the use of your squire and the establishment of the colony for the Lost Ones. The people sort of look at you as this liberating force. How has Chev Orphelia grown and changed over this first year?
So Chev Orphelia started out this year as a very sheltered, viewing everything as pretty clear-cut sort of individual. And over this past year, she not only had to interact with the other knights and saw all of the different ways there are to approach managing the kingdom as a whole, but also got outside and saw just the sheer amount and the variety and the complexity, I think more than anything else, of the issues currently plaguing our country. So this was a kind of a year of maturing, I believe, as an individual in her case. And also, I think her respect for the Antillier grew in a significant way this year. She now very much views she was loyal to the crown before because of course she was, and also she's of House Lion, but this is now very much I will support this person with my life sort of change. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Excellent.
A little bit of hero worship going on, I believe.
You receive the tag True Friend to Beatrice, or it's a tag that you can exhaust at another time. There may be an individual in a future adventure that accepts Orphelia as the true friend. What of Sir Danielle?
I think Danielle has really kind of saw a lot during the feast. They saw the bickering as one does about coin and taxes, and although that is important, especially for the church, they have seen that this has taken the eye away from what really matters, and that is making sure that the people and the faith is upheld, and that the foreign influences do not get any more power. So they're definitely going to be taking more of a hard eye on who is and isn't following the correct way.
Yes, you've received the tag Firebrand, and essentially, not just in the nations. I mean, the story is told how Sir Danielle essentially caused a king to kneel. I mean, that's the way the story's told. The Speaker of the Sun is not a king in any regard. In fact, they're little more than a tall fisherman. With that said, the story goes like, yep, Emperor of the Solar Empire came over, Sir Danielle cut him behind the knee, caused him to kneel, and then made him dance all night. That's the God's honest truth. I heard about it in church for the pulpit.
That is where truth is.
Leave, and you must dance.
I can't stand anymore. You're going to watermelon crawl, whether you like it or not. Sarah Cataline, how have you grown and changed over the year as well?
Sure. Prior to this year, all of Sir Cataline's focus and endeavors have been purely through travel and enforcing and battle. So this more tactical, more democratic way of going about things is very eye-opening. It's been a lot to take in, seeing Chev and Timony and Chev Ophelia interacting and dealing with all of this nuanced stuff, and seeing the other side of collecting those taxes. I just generally, as a leader, have no doubts, and now I'm trying to figure out where should my endeavors lie. What should I be doing?
Suzerain Josa met with you and bestowed upon you the ancestral blade and said, I just want you to remember that in some situations, this is the only talking you need to do. And the very cunning may not be quick as you are. And I admire you as a respected leader of House Wolf, and I'd like to bestow upon you the rank of captain, essentially making you a captain over knights of House Wolf.
I take this title with all the gravity that you have bestowed upon me, and I shall live up to this.
And so it was. You are Captain DeWolf and things now, and you have received the tag of as a captain of knights. So there may come a time where being captain of knights is useful. And her star of the skies, Queen Ramona Flowers.
Not that. The Antillier is definitely more distant from this, at least personally, but is going to start taking this role on a little bit more seriously and putting in more footwork. She's going to organize that circuit of Queen's spies, basically, for herself. There's a better word, I guess Rangers or something, but the Queen's spies sounds really cool. To go and seek out information to better lead.
You're going to receive the tag kills with a glance.
Nice.
There may be a time where your very look will end the confrontation or conflict.
I think the funniest thing about setting this up is it's to be able to lead better and like stop revolutions from happening so much, but it's going to cost taxes to put together, and the revolutions are coming from taxes. This is weird.
All right, so that's our game for the evening.
weird
That's episode 1 of Unrestful Hearts and Gardens of Glory, a new game that I designed myself. Let's go ahead and quickly do our outros because we are at time. My name's Grant Ellis. You can follow me on Twitter at WisePapaGrant. I'm an independent game designer and content creator and producer all over the internet. Take it away, Pro.
Muted.
You're muted.
Muted.
I'm professional. Hey, I'm Pro Restarter. You guys on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram, all under the same name. Thank you for having me. Had so much fun.
All right, and M.
Addie Jeffrey on Twitter and most other places. This was really fun. What a cool system.
Oh, certainly loved having you play. And Poisel.
Hi, I am a Poisel on Twitter, a .poisel on Instagram, and you can find me on twitch.tv/Poisel and like patreon.com/Poisel. I play games on the internet, and I'll be playing some games tomorrow, and just follow me on Twitter to keep up with things.
Marcy Vallon.
Hi. Hi there. I'm Marcy. You can follow me on Twitter at MarsieVellan. I'm a cast member on Scraticus Academy Encounter Roleplay. I'll be here on Monday again, and also Gold Heart Group on every other Saturday. But if you want more details, just give me a follow or look me up.
And last but not least, Jess.
Burst of Hope. Jess. Mostly Twitter. Lots of Twitch. Everywhere. Greyhawk. Here. Pros. Scrat. I just play. I run things. It's fun. I'm excited.
Well, thank you so much to this cast for playing. We'll catch you on the flip side. We're going to throw it back to our engineer, Drake, and drop out of here. So goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.